Welcome to Brain on Books YouTube channel. Today we're really diving headfirst into a roadmap that honestly a lot of people probably think is impossible. We're looking at a detailed analysis based on Grant Sabatier's framework for achieving financial independence. And this whole philosophy, it's rooted in a pretty extraordinary personal story, right? Going from just, what, $2 in the bank?
Just $2. $2 to a staggering $1 million net worth. And the time frame is what gets you. 5 years.
5 years, that's the kicker.
It really is. It's an acceleration that just fundamentally challenges that slow, decades-long path, the one we've all sort of been conditioned to accept. The premise is incredibly bold. Financial freedom in 5 years, not 50.
This sounds radical, almost aggressive.
It is aggressive. It's an aggressive approach to accumulating wealth, and it demands, well, total buy-in. You can't really half commit to this.
Yeah, that's the ultimate hook, isn't it? The sheer audacity of that timeline. It forces you to ask, okay, what rules did he break? What leverage points did he actually find that others miss? So our mission today really is to extract that core 7-step process. We need to understand not just what he did, but more importantly, how. How did he structure his life to generate high income so quickly, maximize savings so aggressively, and accelerate investment without any delay?
Well, we absolutely have to start with the foundational philosophy, because it changes the very way you look at your resources. The core principle driving this whole rapid-fire method is, actually, it's simple but quite profound. Time is limited, money is infinite.
I like that framing. Time is limited, money is infinite.
Think about it.
Yeah. Traditional retirement basically forces you to trade your limited time, which is your most precious, totally non-renewable asset, for money. And money as a resource is technically infinite, right? You spend 40, maybe 50 years just selling hours.
Exactly. And this methodology, it seeks to just sever that direct link. It's about using the limited time you do have, especially, your peak earning and learning years, to structure systems that generate money indefinitely without you constantly trading hours.
Right. So the traditional route keeps you plugging away until you're 60, 65.
Maybe older these days. But this new paradigm, it leverages the opportunities of what the source calls the updated information world. The digital economy, the availability of high-value informational skills, stuff that just wasn't as accessible before. And that lets you potentially achieve independence maybe in your 20s or 30s.
Okay, but we should probably clarify what retirement really means in this context. Because, most people hear retirement and they immediately picture kicking back on a beach with a drink, maybe a hammock.
Yeah, that's a crucial distinction. It needs to be defined properly here. It doesn't necessarily mean you stop working entirely. Not at all. It means you've reached a state where you simply never have to work for money again. Your basic fundamental needs are covered by passive income streams. Your choices, then, are no longer dictated by a paycheck.
Okay, so it's about choice.
It's about choice driven by passion or purpose or just plain curiosity. That psychological freedom, that's the ultimate goal here, not just stopping work altogether.
All right, so let's unpack that first critical step then, defining the destination. Because you can't build this fast-track rocket, as you called it, without knowing exactly where it needs to land.
Precisely.
Right? This means figuring out your number. And the source material suggests this number, interestingly, is often lower than our sort of ingrained assumptions. But it requires absolute, almost surgical clarity.
Absolutely. If the path is, say, 7 years instead of 50, every single calculation needs to be spot on. There's just no room for vague estimates. The source material breaks down this required money target into 3 essential layers. It's like building a layered definition of what financial freedom actually looks like for you.
Okay, layer 1. Where do we start?
We start with the absolute foundation. Basic living. What is the bare minimum amount of money you need month to month just to cover necessities? We're talking essential shelter, basic food, utilities, fundamental transport, nothing fancy.
This is like the survival floor, right?
Exactly, the survival floor. You need this number because, well, it informs your emergency fund needs for one thing, and it sets your absolute minimum passive income target. What's the baseline income you need generated passively just to keep the lights on?
Okay, makes sense. So what's the next layer up?
The second layer acknowledges that, well, survival isn't really the goal, is it? Comfortable living is. So this layer incorporates the lifestyle you actually desire, the one you'd be genuinely happy maintaining long term.
So moving beyond ramen noodles and sharing a tiny room somewhere.
Right. This probably includes things like adequate health care, maybe better quality food, perhaps some budget for travel or hobbies, things that make life enjoyable, not just bearable.
Got it. Basic, then Comfortable. What's the third layer?
And the third layer is really the mathematical linchpin. It's the passive income goal. This is the ultimate monetary target we're shooting for. We need to know exactly what amount of money you want to earn monthly, passively, without having to perform active labor for it.
Okay, and how do you get to that specific number?
Well, this is where we bring in sort of the mechanical foundation of the whole FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. It's the 4% rule.
Ah, yes, the famous 4% rule. Heard of it, but maybe break it down quickly.
Sure. So, to figure out the target net worth needed for sustainable passive income, you first determine your annual comfortable living costs, that number we just talked about.
Okay, the yearly cost for my desired comfortable lifestyle.
Exactly. And then you multiply that annual number by 25. That resulting figure, that's your target net worth. That's your number.
Multiply by 25. Okay.
Oh.
Why 25 specifically? For anyone who hasn't encountered this, it might feel a bit arbitrary, pulled out of thin air.
No, not at all. It's actually derived from the concept of a safe withdrawal rate, or SWR. Decades of historical market data suggest that if you withdraw 4% of your total invested portfolio in your first year of retirement,
4%, okay.
and then you adjust that dollar amount for inflation each year after that, your money has a very, very high probability, often cited as over 95% of lasting for 30 years or even longer.
Okay, so 4% is 125th. That's where the 25 comes from.
Precisely. So, simple example. If you figure out you need $40,000 per year to live comfortably, according to your definition, then you need $40,000 times 25, which is $1 million. $1 million invested is the target you need to hit to potentially sustain that $40K lifestyle indefinitely, just through market growth and those 4% withdrawals. That's the number you're aggressively chasing down.
Okay, that makes the target crystal clear. So once that destination is locked in, we need to pivot, right? We need to figure out the starting point, objective audit of where we are today.
Yes. And this begins with the non-negotiable net worth calculation.
Total assets minus total liabilities. The classic formula.
The classic. And you have to be brutally honest here. Your assets, not what you hope they're worth, but their current realistic, maybe even liquid value. And your liabilities, all of it, every bit of debt, mortgages, student loans, credit card balances, car loans, everything.
No hiding.
No hiding. This number establishes your financial baseline. It's the stake in the ground, and it's the metric you'll use to measure your progress over these crucial next 5 years.
Okay, net worth. What else do we need for this starting point audit?
Beyond net worth, you need a clear income status check. Determine your current monthly active income primarily from your job, usually. And then again, be brutally honest about your passive income. If it's 0 right now, great. You've identified a key target for growth.
Right. Know your inflows.
Exactly. And then, critically, what the source calls the professional status check. This isn't just about your job title. It's about your value proposition in the market. Meaning, are you in a high-demand field? Are your skills actually leverageable for higher income? And then, crucially, project out the next 2, 3, 5 years. How are you going to grow your value? How will you grow your business or increase your market worth within your job? How are you going to provide exponentially more value to others? Because stasis, just staying put, is the absolute enemy of this 5-year timeline. You need growth.
It's interesting. What stands out to me here is that the source material doesn't just focus on the spreadsheets and the numbers. It puts a huge emphasis on the money mindset audit.
Yeah.
The inner game.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's crucial.
Because you could calculate everything perfectly, have the math down pat, but if your internal psychology, your mindset around money sabotages you, well, the whole plan falls apart.
It does. We often overlook, financial trauma or maybe just deeply ingrained scarcity mindsets we picked up somewhere. If you're terrified of debt, for instance, to the point where you keep all your money languishing in a savings account, well, inflation is just eating you alive.
Right. Or the opposite, maybe. If you view spending as some kind of badge of honor or status symbol.
Yeah, then you'll likely never save enough, certainly not at the aggressive rate this requires. Your mindset dictates your actions.
So let's go a bit deeper into those 3 mindset questions the source suggests we ask ourselves. The first one sounds simple, but maybe it's not. What are your feelings about money?
Yeah, are your feelings based on, rational analysis? Or are they rooted in maybe stuff you learned as a kid? Lessons about money being evil, or maybe too complicated for people like us, or perhaps only accessible to some vague other group of people. These unconscious feelings, they really dictate whether you'll actually stick to a financial plan when things get tough.
Okay. That makes sense. The second question seems to drill down into discipline and consistency. How long do you stick to a financial decision after making it? And the source even asks, pretty bluntly, do you ever follow through?
Oof, yeah. That's a tough one for many. If you say, commit with gusto to maxing out your Roth IRA this year, but then 2 months later you pull money out for some spontaneous holiday you saw on Instagram, well, your discipline is clearly the weakest link in the chain, not the plan itself.
Right. Consistency is key. And the third question feels the most proactive. What is your current thought process regarding saving, money making, and investing?
Yeah, are you just passively waiting for your next scheduled raise at work? Or are you actively out there, reading annual reports, learning new high-value skills, constantly seeking out opportunities, networking? The goal here is to actively cultivate a high-yield habit of financial discipline. You need to treat wealth creation not as a passive thing that happens to you, but as a continuous, urgent, skill-based activity you engage in every day.
Okay, so we've got the numbers defined, hopefully calibrated the mindset a bit. Now we move into phase one. Maximizing income and savings. This really feels like the engine of the whole 5-year plan. And it's built around what the source calls the wealth creation equation.
That's right. And this equation, it has to be balanced, but balanced aggressively. It involves 3 key variables that you need to manage simultaneously. 1, how much money you earn. 2, how much money you spend, essentially, your costs. And 3, how much you manage to save and, crucially, invest from the net difference between earning and spending.
In a traditional plan, people might focus on, small cuts to spending, clipping coupons, skipping lattes, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But in this accelerated framework, you can't just tinker with one variable. You have to maximize all 3 at the same time. Push income way up, push costs way down, and push the saving investment rate through the roof.
And the strategy demands, interestingly, that you focus aggressively on maximizing those saving and investment variables first. Why is that the priority?
It's the power of compounding. Simple as that. A dollar saved and invested today has significantly more time to grow and compound than a dollar you manage to save next year or the year after. Early investment is critical fuel for this accelerated timeline.
Got it. So to maximize the earnings part of that equation, the advice is to adopt the entrepreneurial mindset, even if you're currently an employee, right?
Yes, absolutely. You have to think like an owner of your own career, your own skills. And the foundational step here, according to the source, is calculating your precise hourly value. Not just your salary divided by hours worked, but the value you generate for every hour you dedicate specifically to wealth creation activities.
How does knowing that hourly value
Help. Because if you want to reach, say, $1 million net worth in 5 years, you need to constantly know what your labor, your skills, your time is worth in the marketplace. And then you need to relentlessly work to increase that value and demand compensation based on it. It shifts your focus from just doing your job to maximizing your value.
Okay, so this means viewing your current 9-to-5 job not as the end-all be-all, but more as a launching pad for financial freedom.
Exactly. It's your secure base. It pays the bills while you build the escape rocket. So the question becomes, how do you extract the absolute maximum value from that launching pad while you're still there?
And how do you do that? What's the strategy?
Well, short term, it's about ruthless self-improvement focused on high-value skills. You need to maximize your current salary and any available incentives by rapidly getting better at things your company and the market truly values. Think advanced data analysis, complex project management, high-stakes negotiation, sales, specialized tech skills.
So you're essentially using the company's need to increase its value as an opportunity, or maybe an excuse, to dramatically increase your own skill value.
Precisely. It's symbiotic, ideally. And then, long-term, beyond just skills, you must strategically network. You need to improve your informational skills, understanding the industry, the market, how money flows. And you gather the talent, the knowledge, the connections necessary to make not just you, but your company more successful.
Which feels a bit counterintuitive if you're planning to leave.
But it's indirect self-investment. By becoming a top performer, by understanding what makes the business tick, you learn exactly how a successful enterprise operates. And that operational knowledge is gold. It's the exact knowledge you'll need when you launch and scale your own side hustle or business later on.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's fit into some specifics then on maximizing job benefits and salary. What are the concrete tactics?
First, the benefits audit. Don't just assume you know what's available or that you're using it optimally. Go talk to HR. Dig into the details. Ensure you are maximizing every single benefit offered, especially things like health insurance options. HSAs can be great investment vehicles, retirement contributions, particularly any company match, and maybe even tuition reimbursement programs to fund that skill development we talked about.
The 401k match is basically free money, right? You absolutely have to get that.
It's the highest guaranteed return you'll likely ever find. If they offer a match, you must contribute enough to capture 100% of it. Leaving that on a table is financial malpractice in this context. And don't be afraid to negotiate for benefits if they're ones you want that aren't standard. Maybe they'll cover a certification or offer more flexible hours.
Okay, benefits covered. What about boosting the actual salary or incentives? The source mentioned some strategies that, frankly, sound like they require some real courage.
They do. One suggestion is trying to work on a percentage basis instead of a fixed salary if your role allows for it. Think sales commissions, profit sharing, performance bonuses tied directly to measurable results. This directly links your income to the value you actually generate. It potentially removes the ceiling imposed by a fixed salary.
That's a big shift. What's the other main tactic?
The other tactic is just pure market efficiency. It's systematically applying for jobs at other companies that are offering significantly higher salaries for the exact same work you're doing now.
That sounds like job hopping.
It might be, but you can frame it differently. This isn't about disloyalty for its own sake. It's about recognizing that your current employer might be undervaluing you relative to the current market rate for your skills and experience. You have to be prepared to make a move to capture your true market worth, especially on an accelerated timeline. Loyalty that costs you tens of thousands a year is a luxury you can't afford here.
So the core takeaway from optimizing the job is really focused on two things.
Increasing your skills and network, because those are the assets that provide both short-term monetary gains through higher salaries and bonuses and long-term potential for future ventures.
Okay, so we've squeezed maximum value from the 9-to-5 launchpad. Now we have to acknowledge the fundamental limitation: time. Since the day job limits your earning hours, the source says the side hustle imperative is basically non-negotiable for this kind of speed.
Absolutely essential. If you're trading, say, 40 or 50 hours a wint for a fixed salary, your income potential is inherently capped. The side hustle is what unlocks the other 40, 50, maybe even 60 hours of your available waking time each week. It's where the accelerated income growth really comes from.
And the advice is to start that side business with minimum risk.
Yes, definitely. Don't bet the farm on day one. Use your primary job's income as the safety net. The side hustle initially is your training ground. It's where you learn practical skills like marketing, finding clients, delivering value, handling finances, maybe even basic web design or social media, all those things you need to run a business learned on the side during non-work hours without risking your basic living expenses.
And there's a philosophical point here too, isn't there, about working for yourself versus others.
A crucial one. The source emphasizes prioritizing working for yourself, meaning building equity, building an asset, building a business, over just working for others in exchange for a simple payment for temporary service, like a freelance gig with no long-term value.
Why is building the business better?
Because building a business, even a tiny one at first, provides potentially exponential learning. It gives you ownership. It creates something with lasting value. And critically, it holds the potential for residual or passive income later on, which a simple freelance gig usually doesn't. Plus, the source suggests there's often more fulfillment and happiness derived from building your own thing.
Okay, so start the side hustle, learn the ropes, build something. What's the end game for the side hustle in this framework?
The ultimate goal is the transition point. That side hustle that initially requires your direct time and effort must eventually evolve into a real, sustainable business that generates passive or near passive income.
And how does that happen? Magic?
No. Delegation and systems. It happens by growing the side hustle to a point where you can strategically hire others, maybe virtual assistants, maybe contractors, maybe eventually part-time or full-time employees, people who can run the core operations, the marketing, the fulfillment, the customer service without your direct day-to-day involvement.
So you're building a system that makes money even when you're not actively working in it.
Exactly. When you are no longer constantly swapping your personal time for money within your side business, that's when you've achieved true leverage. That's when it becomes a serious accelerator towards financial freedom.
All right, moving into phase 2. This one feels, well, maybe the most psychologically challenging for a lot of people. Mastering spending and budgeting. We've just put all this energy into maximizing income, right? Now we have to make sure it doesn't just leak out the other side.
Precisely. The defense is just as important as the offense in this game. And the core quote the source gives us here is a powerful guiding principle. Saving money is making money.
Saving money is making money. How so?
Every dollar you don't spend unnecessarily is a dollar you can immediately put to work investing. And that invested dollar starts earning returns, effectively making you more money passively. So resisting a purchase isn't just avoiding an expense, it's actively choosing to increase your future wealth.
Okay, so this isn't really about deprivation then, is it? It's more about intentionality.
Exactly. It's about building a profound, almost automatic filter against impulse spending. And the source provides a fantastic, really practical tool for this. The 11 financial questions you absolutely must ask yourself before buying anything of significance. This turns every potential purchase into a sort of rational negotiation with yourself.
11 questions. That sounds like a lot to ask before buying, say, a coffee.
Well, maybe not for a $5 coffee, but definitely for anything larger, a new gadget, clothes, furniture, a vacation, certainly a car. It's about building the habit of questioning.
Okay, let's look at some of these. They force some deep cuts, right? The simple ones kind of set the stage. How much happiness will this purchase genuinely bring me? How much does it actually cost? Can I truly afford it right now without derailing my savings goals?
Right. Those initial questions are designed to stop that immediate emotional impulse buy in its tracks. Just pausing to answer them can often be enough.
Then you get into what you call the efficiency questions.
Yeah, things like, how does this price compare to competitors? Is there a significant percentage difference? Can I get this exact same thing or something that serves the same function cheaper somewhere else? Maybe used, maybe refurbished, maybe by waiting for a sale. These ensure you're not just buying, but acquiring value optimally.
But the real power, you mentioned, lies in the questions that force you to consider the long-term implications, the true cost of ownership.
Exactly. That's where the deeper cuts happen. We need to factor in things like maintenance and carrying costs. So question 7 asks, what is the ongoing maintenance and carrying cost? And question 8 follows up, what is the annual cost of ownership or maintenance?
Give me an example of where that bites you.
Think about a boat or maybe a fancy second car or even a timeshare. The initial purchase price might seem manageable, maybe even tempting. But the long-term costs, insurance, fuel, storage fees, repairs, property taxes, annual dues, those can absolutely crush your savings rate over time. You have to look at the total lifetime cost, not just the sticker price.
Okay, that's huge. What about the questions that link back to our core philosophy, the time versus money idea?
Ah, yes. This is probably the most powerful filter in the whole list. Question 3 asks, very directly, how many hours of my life will I have to spend earning the money to afford this?
Oof, that hits hard.
It's the ultimate decision-making metric, isn't it? That shiny new $1,500 laptop. It doesn't just cost $1,500. If your calculated hourly value is, say, $50 after tax, that laptop costs you 30 hours. 30 hours of your limited, non-renewable life energy. Is it worth that trade?
Wow. That reframing is everything. When you stop viewing a purchase in terms of currency and start viewing it in terms of irreplaceable hours of your life traded away,
Yeah,
the true cost becomes unbearable for most unnecessary things.
it really does. And then we have to emphasize question 11, which the source highlights as potentially the most critical question on the entire list. How much time will this product save me in the future?
Ah, the flip side. Not just cost, but potential return in time.
Exactly. This frames spending as a potential investment in future productivity or freedom. If, say, a $500 software package genuinely saves you 3 hours a week of tedious administrative work,
Oh, okay.
and you can then dedicate those freed up 3 hours to generating high-value client income or building your side hustle faster, then that $500 software isn't an expense, it's a high-return investment in your most valuable asset, your time. But if it doesn't save you significant time or directly generate more value, then it's probably just a wealth-destroying liability in disguise.
So by applying this rigorous 11-question filter consistently,
Yeah.
the idea is you naturally stop focusing on those microscopic cuts, like agonizing over skipping a daily coffee, and you automatically shift your focus to the real levers, the big wins.
Precisely. Which leads directly to the next major strategy,
Yeah.
reducing the big 3 expenses. These are the categories that typically consume 60%, 70%, sometimes even more of the average household budget.
And those are,
Housing, transportation, and food. Forget clipping coupons if your rent is half your income. Tackling these big 3 head-on is where you find the serious cash to redirect towards investment.
okay, let's break those down. Reducing the big 3 instantly and exponentially impacts your saving rate. All right, let's start with the biggest one for most people, housing. What are the aggressive housing hacks suggested?
Well, the goal here is brutally simple. Reduce your single largest monthly bill to 0, or as close to 0 as humanly possible, at least for the duration of this intense 5-year accumulation phase.
Oh, 0 housing costs.
Yeah.
That sounds drastic.
Right.
Requires sacrifice, I imagine.
It absolutely requires sacrifice. Before you achieve financial freedom, this likely means living small. Maybe a tiny apartment, maybe sharing a room or house with multiple people, or employing some of the more creative, even unconventional strategies outlined in the source.
Like what? Give us the specifics.
Okay, one specific strategy mentioned is trying to live essentially rent-free by becoming a house caretaker or house sitter. You look after someone else's property, maybe it's a high-value home owned by people who travel frequently, and in exchange for providing security and basic upkeep, you get to use one room or a portion of the house.
Do those opportunities actually exist?
They do, although they aren't maybe super common and often require flexibility, a high degree of trust, and the right connections. But if you can find such an arrangement, the financial payoff is obviously immense. You've just eliminated your biggest expense.
All right, what's another, maybe more accessible strategy?
The second strategy involves leveraging rental arbitrage, sometimes called house hacking. But we need to be clear, this comes with its own set of complexities and responsibilities.
Added to the work.
The basic idea is you rent a larger property than you personally need, say a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment or house. You live in one of the bedrooms yourself, and then you rent out the other bedrooms to tenants or roommates.
Becoming a live-in landlord, essentially.
Exactly. And logistically, this requires very careful execution. First, and this is critical, you must check your lease agreement and local laws to ensure subletting is actually legal and permitted by your landlord. You might need specific permission.
Assuming you can do it legally.
Assuming you can, if you price the rooms correctly and manage it well, the rental income you collect from your tenants can potentially cover the entire cost of the rent for the whole apartment, plus maybe utilities. This allows you to live there essentially for free, or perhaps even generate a small monthly profit from your housing situation.
Wow. That's a massive potential injection into your investment capital each month. That could be, what, $15,000, $20,000, even $30,000 saved per year, depending on your market.
Easily. It's a huge accelerator, but it requires being comfortable acting as a landlord, dealing with tenant issues, screening people carefully, and of course, living with roommates or tenants, which just isn't for everyone.
Right. That's the trade-off again, isn't it? You're trading convenience, maybe privacy, for immense capital acceleration.
Precisely. It's about understanding the cost of comfort during the specific 5-year push.
Okay, housing hacked. What about the second of the big three? Transportation hacks.
Similar principle. Defer the luxury and convenience of personal vehicle ownership, at least until freedom is achieved. A car is often a massively depreciating asset.
Worse than that, it's an expense machine, right?
Totally. Insurance, maintenance, gas, parking, repairs, it all adds up, creating constant friction against your acceleration goals. So the advice is use public transport whenever feasible. Consider carpooling with friends or colleagues. Look into travel shares or bike commuting. Anything to avoid or minimize the significant ongoing drain of owning and operating a personal vehicle during this critical accumulation phase.
Okay, housing, transport, food is the third one. Any specific hacks there beyond just eat cheaply?
Well, eat cheaply is the core, but it's about doing it strategically. It means planning meals meticulously to avoid waste and impulse takeaways, cooking almost exclusively at home rather than eating out, buying staples in bulk, maybe exploring cheaper grocery stores or markets. It's less about specific hacks and more about applying that same intense intentionality we talked about with the 11 questions to every single food purchase and meal decision. Reducing food spending significantly requires conscious effort every single day.
Right. So the overarching mandate, the reason for mastering spending and attacking the big three so aggressively, is to free up enough cash to push your saving rate way, way up. How high are we talking?
We need to be talking 25% or higher, minimum. The source material and much of the FIRE literature makes it clear. Your saving rate is the single biggest determinant of how quickly you reach financial independence, much more so than your absolute income level.
Could you give some benchmarks?
Sure. If you manage to save and invest, say, 50% of your after-tax income consistently, you're generally on track for financial independence in roughly 17 years, based on average market returns.
Okay, 17 years is already way faster than traditional retirement.
Way faster. But if you want to hit that audacious 5-year target Grant Sabatier achieved, you likely need to push that saving rate even higher, maybe to 60%, 70%, even 75% or more, especially in the early years.
75% saving rate. That sounds almost impossible for most people.
It requires radical commitment, certainly. It means implementing all those income maximization strategies and all those expense reduction strategies simultaneously and to an extreme degree. But the math is compelling. If you can somehow manage a 75% saving rate, you can potentially achieve financial independence, meaning your investments can cover your expenses indefinitely via the 4% rule in as little as 7 to 8 years, almost regardless of your starting income. This framework demands that kind of radical focus on the saving rate.
Okay, we've cranked up the earnings engine, we plugged the spending leaks. Now we hit phase 3, aggressive investing and the exit strategy. This is where all that hard-won savings actually gets put to work. This is the transition from active income generation to building truly passive wealth.
Exactly. And the investment framework presented here isn't about chasing risky speculative bets. It's actually quite protective, designed for rapid and relatively safe accumulation while minimizing potential losses along the way. It's built on 5 core concepts, 5 protective filters, really.
Okay, what are those 5 core concepts or filters that every investment decision needs to pass through in this model?
You have to constantly, consciously prioritize these 5 things. 1, minimize risk. 2, minimize fees. 3, minimize contribution taxes. 4, maximize returns within acceptable risk parameters, of course. And 5, minimize withdrawal taxes.
Minimize risk, fees, contribution tax, withdrawal tax, maximize returns.
It sounds like you're essentially trying to build a defensive wall around your growing capital at every stage.
That's a great way to put it. You're protecting it from erosion by fees, taxes, and unnecessary risk, allowing it the best possible chance to compound rapidly.
Okay, so how do those 5 core concepts translate into practical action? The source outlines 7 strategic investment guidelines, right? Yes. These are the rules of engagement for your investment portfolio. Strategy 1 starts, as always, with clarity.
Which is?
You need to clearly separate your short-term investments from your long-term investments. Money you know you'll need in the next, say, 1 to 5 years maybe for a house down payment, maybe to fund a business expansion. That money should be held in safer, more liquid assets. Things like high-yield savings accounts, CDs, maybe short-term bond funds. It should absolutely not be mixed up with the money that needs 20, 30, or 40 years of compounding growth potential for your long-term retirement needs. That money can tolerate more volatility.
Got it. Don't gamble with short-term cash needs. What's strategy 2?
Strategy 2 is about automation and escalation. Consistently calculate and increase the percentage you must invest. Make it automatic. Set up auto transfers from your checking account to your investment accounts right after payday. And crucially, as your income increases from your job or side hustle, that percentage you invest must also grow. Don't just invest the same dollar amount and let lifestyle inflation eat the rest. Increase the percentage.
So, lock in the gains by automating bigger investments. Strategy 3.
Strategy 3 is setting a targeted asset allocation. This is fundamental diversification. Decide on your desired mix between different asset classes, typically stocks, maybe U.S., international, large cap, small cap, bonds, government, corporate, real estate, and maybe a small allocation to cash or alternatives. Your specific allocation will depend on your risk tolerance and time horizon, but having a target allocation is your primary defense against market volatility. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right. Diversification 101. Strategy 4 tackles something often overlooked, but you said it's lethal over time.
Absolutely lethal. Minimize investment fees. This is huge. Even seemingly tiny differences in expense ratios on mutual funds or ETFs, say 0.5% versus 0.1%, can cost you hundreds of thousands, potentially even millions of dollars over a long investing lifetime due to the way fees compound against you. You must ensure fees are properly evaluated. Seek out low-cost, highly efficient investment vehicles like broad market index funds or ETFs.
Pay attention to those expense ratios.
Yeah.
Okay, strategy 5.
Strategy 5 is about the types of investments you choose within your allocation. Select investments that are relatively safe, but still offer high growth potential. For most people, especially on this accelerated path, this doesn't mean trying to pick individual stocks or time the market. It usually means focusing on those diversified, low-cost index funds we just mentioned. Funds that track the entire market, like an S&P 500 index or a total stock market index, maximize your chance of capturing overall market growth, essentially maximizing the probability of your money growing exponentially over time without taking on excessive, uncompensated risk.
Okay, so broad diversification, low fees. Now, strategies 6 and 7 seem to focus on what you call the forgotten enemy of wealth building.
Yes, the tax man. Taxes can be the single largest drag on your investment returns over time if you're not careful. So strategy 6 is critical. Maximize tax-advantaged accounts.
Seeing things like 401k, IRAs.
Exactly. You need to use every legal vehicle available to shield your investment growth and income from taxes as much as possible.
Hmm.
This means fully leveraging accounts like a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, where you pay taxes on your contributions now, but then all the growth and qualified withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free.
Tax-free growth sounds good. What about traditional accounts?
Or you might prioritize a traditional 401k or traditional IRA where your contributions are typically tax deductible now, reducing your current taxable income, but your withdrawals will be taxed as ordinary income in retirement. The choice between Roth and traditional depends on your current versus expected future tax rate, but the point is to use these accounts aggressively.
Why is maximizing these specific accounts so crucial for someone aiming for early retirement, say in their 30s or 40s?
Because a significant portion of your accumulated wealth could simply vanish into taxes if it's all sitting in standard taxable brokerage accounts when you start withdrawing. By strategically using Roth accounts, especially, you secure potentially decades of tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals, maximizing the powerful effect of compounding and ensuring more of your money stays your money. And that leads directly to strategy 7.
Which is?
Simply maximize your investments within those tax-advantaged accounts once you've set them up and decided on your Roth traditional mix. Don't leave unused contribution space on the table each year if you can possibly help it. Fill those buckets up first before investing in taxable accounts.
Okay, maximize tax advantages. Now, shifting gears slightly within investing, the source material puts a pretty strong emphasis on real estate investment, suggesting it's almost a necessary component for diversification compared to relying solely on, say, stocks and bonds, which can be more volatile.
Yes, real estate is often highlighted as providing several potential benefits. It offers a tangible asset you can see and touch, which some people find comforting. It allows for leverage using borrowed money, a mortgage, to control a larger asset. And it can generate multiple potential revenue streams, rental income, and appreciation. It can act as a sort of stability anchor and inflation hedge within a rapid growth portfolio.
So how does the source suggest you actually make money with real estate in this context? It outlines 3 primary ways.
That's right. Method 1 is the quickest, but maybe requires the most market knowledge. Buy and sell property almost immediately. This is like pure arbitrage, finding significantly undervalued assets that you can flip quickly for a profit with minimal work, capitalizing on immediate price disparities or specific market inefficiencies. High risk, high speed, needs expertise.
Okay. Method 2.
Method 2 is the classic flipping model. Buy a property relatively cheap, often one that needs work. Invest your own time and capital into improving it, renovations, upgrades, and then sell it for a significantly higher price within a relatively short time frame, maybe 6-18 months. This is highly active, almost a job in itself, but can offer very high localized returns if done well.
Right, the TV show model. And method 3, this one sounds more aligned with the passive income goal.
Exactly. Method 3 is the buy and hold strategy. Buy a property, likely one that already generates positive cash flow or has strong potential to do so, and hold on to it long term. You collect rental income month after month, year after year, while hopefully benefiting from gradual property appreciation over time. Eventually, you might sell it many years down the road or just keep collecting the rent indefinitely. This focuses on building long-term passive income and equity.
Okay, buy and hold sounds appealing for the FIRE goal. Now, for someone starting out on this path, maybe feeling intimidated by real estate, the force provides some actionable steps, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're starting with relatively modest capital, say $10,000 or $20,000.
It emphasizes that you can get started, but it demands discipline, preparation, and speed.
So step 1 is?
Develop a focused investment track or strategy and budget. Don't just browse random listings. Decide what kind of property you're looking for, e.g., single-family rental, small multi-unit, where you're looking a specific neighborhood or market, and what your numbers need to look like. Target price range, expected rent, required cash flow. Have a plan.
Okay, have a plan. Step 2 sounds crucial. Secure a pre-approved home loan before you even start seriously looking. Why is this so critical?
Speed of execution. In competitive markets, good investment deals, especially properties with positive cash flow potential, often disappear incredibly quickly, sometimes within 24 to 48 hours of hitting the market. Having your financing already pre-approved eliminates the biggest hurdle that slows down most buyers and makes your offer much stronger and faster. You need to be ready to pounce.
Be ready to pounce. Step 3, search specifically for properties with positive cash flow. We mentioned this, but maybe reiterate, how does a beginner identify that? What are they looking for?
Positive cash flow simply means that the expected monthly rental income, your gross income from the property, is greater than all the anticipated monthly operational expenses. And all is the key word here. That includes the mortgage payment, principal and interest, property taxes, homeowners insurance, often called PITI, plus reasonable estimates for vacancy periods, repairs, maintenance reserves, and potentially property management fees if you plan to hire someone.
So after all those expenses are paid, the property should still be putting money into your bank account each month, not taking it out.
Exactly. Even if it's just $100 or $200 a month initially, you're looking for a property that pays for itself and then some. Beginners often analyze this using metrics like the cash-on-cash return, which measures the annual pre-tax cash flow generated relative to the actual cash you invested out of pocket, your down payment plus closing costs. You need to run the numbers conservatively.
Run the numbers conservatively. Okay, step 4 involves building a team.
Yes, find dedicated realtors or property agents who understand investment properties and are willing to work hard for you. You need someone who actively searches for deals, maybe even off-market properties, and understands your specific criteria and aggressive timeline. They need to be a proactive team player, not just someone who unlocks doors.
Find a great agent. Step 5 seems obvious, but maybe isn't. Act quickly when a good deal appears.
Analysis paralysis is the enemy here. Real estate investing, especially for the best deals, is competitive. Once you've done your due diligence and the numbers work according to your predefined strategy, you need to be prepared to make a strong offer without hesitation. Good deals don't wait.
Step 6 is about scaling and passivity.
Right. Find experienced property managers, especially as you acquire more properties. Remember, the ultimate goal here is passive income, not creating a second full-time job for yourself, managing tenants, collecting rent, and fixing leaky toilets at 2 a.m. Good property management is often worth the cost.
Outsource the headaches. And the final step. Sounds a bit ruthless.
It's about discipline. Be ready to move on from a property if necessary. Don't get emotionally attached to your investments. If a property consistently underperforms, if the cash flow turns negative due to unexpected repairs or market changes, or if a much better opportunity arises, be prepared to sell it, even at a small loss, and redeploy that capital more effectively. Treat it like a business decision, not a personal one.
Okay, so we've built the wealth through income, savings, and smart investing in stocks and real estate. Now we need to plan for the finish line itself, the early retirement exit strategy. Because once you hit your number, your target net worth, you're not done, right? You need a strategy to actually live off that money.
Absolutely. Hitting the number is just the start of the next phase. You need a carefully planned withdrawal strategy to ensure that your accumulated nest egg can sustain you, potentially for 40, 50, even 60 years or more, without you needing to go back to active labor. And ideally, you want it to continue growing modestly, even as you draw from it.
So what are the key post-retirement tips for managing the money? The focus seems to be on capital preservation and tax efficiency.
Exactly. First, the advice is generally to stay debt-free if possible in retirement and continue to prioritize capital preservation alongside modest growth. You're no longer in the hyper-accumulation phase, you're in the preservation and distribution phase.
And second, taxes are still crucial.
Maybe even more so now. You need to maximize tax savings throughout the withdrawal process. How and from which accounts you withdraw your money can have a massive impact on how long it lasts. And this is where the source mentions the bucket strategy coming into play. It's a popular method for managing withdrawals efficiently.
Okay, the bucket strategy. Can you define that specifically for an early retiree who might have decades ahead of them?
Certainly. It's essentially a cash management system designed to ride out market volatility. It works by segregating your investment portfolio into different buckets based on when you'll need the money and the risk level of the assets.
How many buckets typically?
Usually 3. Bucket 1 is your short-term cash reserve. It holds enough cash or highly liquid, ultra-safe assets like CDs or money market funds to cover your living expenses for the next, say, 1 to 2 years. This is your buffer. If the market crashes, you draw from this bucket without having to sell stocks at a loss.
Okay, bucket 1 is safe cash for immediate needs. Bucket 2.
Bucket 2 holds funds for your intermediate term needs, maybe years 3 through 5 or even out to 7 years. This bucket typically contains slightly higher yielding but still relatively stable assets like short-term or intermediate-term bond funds, maybe some high-quality dividend stocks. It's designed to replenish bucket 1 as needed.
Got it. Lower risk in stocks, higher return than cash. And bucket 3.
Bucket 3 holds the bulk of your portfolio, your long-term growth engine. This is where your stocks, equity index funds, maybe real estate investments reside. These are assets intended for growth over the long haul, 5+ years. You generally only sell from bucket 3 during good market years to replenish buckets 1 and 2, allowing your growth assets maximum time to compound and recover from any downturns.
So you draw living expenses from the safe cash bucket first, giving the riskier growth bucket time to recover during market downturns. That helps maintain the sustainability of the 4% rule, doesn't it?
Precisely. It's a strategy that allows you to maintain potentially aggressive growth in bucket 3 for the long term, while insulating your day-to-day living expenses from short-term market volatility. It provides psychological comfort, too.
That makes a lot of sense. Finally, beyond just the mechanics of withdrawal, once financial freedom is actually achieved, the source puts a strong emphasis on having a post-retirement purpose.
Yes, because financial freedom is ultimately just a tool. It's meaningless if you don't know what you actually want to do with that freedom. The advice is to set specific, exciting, maybe even challenging goals for your retirement years. What have you always wanted to do if money wasn't an issue? Travel the world. Learn a new language or skill. Start a passion project or nonprofit. Write a book. Spend more time with family.
So the freedom isn't the end goal, it's the enabler of the real goals.
Exactly. It's meant to accelerate your purpose, your passions, your contribution, whatever that looks like for you.
And there's a really actionable tip here, too. Start working on that most passionate goal almost immediately within the first few months or year after retiring early. Why the urgency?
The suggestion is, don't just drift or spend months adjusting. Immediately immerse yourself in the biggest benefit of the freedom you just worked so incredibly hard to achieve. Whether it's that trip around the world or diving into that passion project, doing so helps to immediately reinforce the value of the sacrifices you made. It lets you truly feel the benefit of that limitless freedom right away, solidifying the why behind the whole journey. Okay, that was a lot. Maybe we should do a quick rapid-fire review, just hitting the highlights of those 12 core concepts that really define this aggressive 5-year framework we've been digging into.
Good idea. Let's recap the journey. So, Chapter 1 essentially was about financial target setting, defining your number with precision, using that 4% rule as a guide.
Right. Then Chapter 2 emphasized the urgency, creating an early retirement goal and plan quickly, treating time as your absolute most critical limiting factor.
Chapter 3 drilled down into defining your minimum living number, understanding that baseline survival cost, not just your ideal comfortable cost.
Chapter 4 was about radical honesty, getting crystal clear on your current financial status, your income, your savings rate, your investments, your net worth baseline. Know where you stand.
Chapter 5 brought in the income acceleration, the necessity of starting a side hustle alongside your job for that crucial income diversification and skill building.
Chapter 6 gave us that powerful spending filter, implementing the 11-question purchase filter before buying anything significant, assessing the true cost and hours of your life and potential time savings.
Chapter 7 was about tackling the big fish, the radical action required for reducing your big expenses, especially by aggressively targeting housing and transport bills.
Chapter 8 focused on leveraging what you already have, maximizing your current job salary and benefits, demanding your market value, and using your job as that launching pad.
Chapter 9 was about building for the long term, starting and growing your own side business with the explicit goal of transitioning it toward passive income generation.
Chapter 10 laid out the investment discipline, following a consistent, low-fee investment track, maximizing tax efficiency through tax-advantaged accounts.
Chapter 11 added a key diversification piece, ensuring portfolio stability and growth potential by strategically investing in real estate with a focus on positive cash flow and market efficiency.
And finally, Chapter 12 brought us to the finish line and beyond, planning the financial long game with an early retirement exit strategy, mastering something like the bucket strategy for sustainable, tax-efficient withdrawals, and having a clear post-retirement purpose.
Wow. Laid out like that, it really underscores that achieving this kind of accelerated wealth isn't about luck or some secret trick. It's a relentless process of continuous, aggressive, highly intentional decision-making, isn't it? It's a completely different paradigm from the traditional save 10% and wait 50 years model.
It absolutely is. And what's maybe most fascinating here, the real provocative thought the source material leaves you with, is about how we measure wealth itself.
How so?
It argues that the true measure of your wealth isn't really your final net worth number, that $1 million or whatever your target is. The true measure is the number of days or months or years you could live right now without having to actively work for money.
Your freedom number in terms of time.
Exactly. The entire framework implicitly challenges you, the listener, to calculate that number for yourself right now. How long could you sustain your current lifestyle if your active income stopped today? And once you know that number, whether it's days, weeks, or months, the real question becomes, how many more hours of your limited, precious, utterly irreplaceable life are you willing to keep trading away for temporary, often unnecessary purchases that don't align with achieving true, lasting freedom?
That philosophical question, connecting every spending decision back to your finite lifespan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like the ultimate leverage point in this whole approach.
It really is. It reframes everything.
If you want to listen detailed summary of more finance-related books, then hit that subscribe button now.